Using heart rate during sport has become pretty commonplace, so much so that you'll be hard-pushed to find an athlete who doesn't use it to monitor their training at some point.
Yeah, after all, it is a way of monitoring so many valuable things, such as how hard your body is working, how fatigued you are, and even how fit you are.
But swimming has been stuck in the dark ages. Even though heart rate has been used in training since the 1970s, it's still rarely seen in the pool. And that's not because it's not going to be useful for swimming. Athletes and coaches have been asking for it, but it's more the fact that the technology still struggles to record accurately while swimming in the pool.
However, thanks to optical heart rate measurement, that barrier is now history. There are more and more products now available on the market that are utilising this technology, and more crucially, in the water. But how do we use heart rate in swimming? Well, with thanks to our channel partner Polar, we are planning to answer just that for you, and also helping you to swim smarter.
Method to measure your heart rate was just to simply use two fingers and post them on your wrist or on your neck just to feel the change in pressure as the blood actually pumped through your arteries. But this is very much a rough guide, and you do still sometimes see athletes doing this if they don't have a heart rate monitor, but remember, it is just a guide.
Yeah, and when heart rate monitors actually became really popular a couple of decades ago, we actually saw a number of athletes and coaches actually using these heart rate monitors at the end of the swimming pool. An athlete would come in, grab the heart rate monitor, place it on, and then take their reading. But the issues we did find with this is that obviously a heart rate monitor or a few heart rate monitors were being shared as a squad. When the athlete came in, it then had to allow time for it to connect, take that reading, by which point the heart rate may have dropped. Also, we have issues with maybe getting the connectivity and picking up that reading through a swimsuit.
Then the other option was to have your own heart rate belt and actually wear it while swimming, but however tight you made it, as long as it was still comfortable. I know especially for guys, every time you push off the wall, it would quite often roll down. So with a swimsuit, it did stay in place a little bit better, but still with the movement, it did give slightly inaccurate readings.
Well, as a result of the difficulties in getting an accurate heart rate reading, swimming training hasn't commonly used this metric as an aid to performance, which when we compare it to cycling and running, it seems rather far behind. I mean, they've even moved on to using power within their training and even racing. So until now, swimming has pretty much just used perceived effort of exertion and times, which, to be honest, only really paints half the picture and actually leaves quite a lot open to human error when we're trying to work out things like how hard an athlete is actually working. So I think it's about time swimming did some catching up, and this is where some new exciting developments in technology come in.
It's time to bring in optical heart rate. Now this measures the change in pressure of your blood flow as a direct result of each heartbeat as it pushes the blood through your arteries and around your body. Now this can then be measured using LED lights, which is displayed directly as your heart rate. Now the heart rate strap, it actually uses the ECG directly from your heart, but that has its limitations in the water as we discussed earlier. So these optical heart rate devices are actually becoming far more common, and if you don't own one yourself, you might well have noticed other athletes using watches with lights on the underside. Well, these LED lights are actually using the blood flow through your wrist to detect what your heart rate is and displaying it. So it enables you to use that device on land, but importantly also while swimming. You do just have to make sure though that the watch is tight enough on your wrist to limit the water flowing between your wrist and your watch to make sure that the readings are still accurate.
Using the same optical heart rate technology, Polar have actually come up with an alternative to the wrist-based measurement for heart rate, and that is the OH1 Plus. Now this is a slightly smaller device that you can be attached to your arm or to your leg for land-based activities, but for in the water and for swimming, you can actually detach the unit from the clip, put on a slightly different clip here, and that can then be attached to your goggles. That will rest really nice and snugly against your temple for a slightly more accurate measurement. Now, as well as being small and out of the way, it also benefits from you not actually requiring a watch to record the heart rate data from this. It actually records all the data onto this device that then can be downloaded post-activity and analysed then. But if you do want to see this data live during your workout, you can connect it to your phone via the Polar Beats app, and then should you have a coach on poolside, they could then benefit from seeing that heart rate data live whilst you're working out.
now you've got options in the pool. You can go by heart rate, perceived effort, times, or even a combination of all both to really make sure you optimize your training. And say, for example, you're in the middle of a heavy training block and your training effort is really high, but you're struggling to hit those times. Well, this is when heart rate comes in handy, because you can actually have a look at how hard you're working and you can adjust your target times accordingly to make sure you stay in the right training zone.
Yeah, and alternatively, if you have a coach actually tracking and monitoring your heart rate on poolside, perhaps through the Polar Beats app, they can actually start looking at your effort level and then maybe adjusting your target times accordingly. Now, with swimming power seemingly a little way off, we can certainly utilize this heart rate data and start making our swimming training far more specific and accurate.
Heart rate in swimming is still a fairly new metric, especially for coaches, and they maybe aren't yet used to integrating into training programs. Plus, at the moment, you can't actually see your heart rate whilst you're swimming yet. But that said, it's still a very useful tool when it comes to analysing your training and seeing how you're progressing throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, swimming does still have a little bit of catching up to do, but this is a really exciting breakthrough and a very useful training tool. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do hit the thumbs up button, and if you'd like to see more videos from GTN, you can just click on the globe and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to see our open water swim workouts video, you can see that by clicking just down here.
And if you want to see a video with numbers explained, it's the Triathlon Training Explained video, and that is just down here.